Some of you know Brian Cook from minerals, some of you know him from gems. So I was apparently ignorant for most of the couple of decades I knew Brian, and I thought he was a rock and mineral dealer. This guy was bringing out amazing rutilated quartzes from Brazil. And you know, that you'd think would be enough to keep you busy. But he also had a double life in the gem world and was one of the biggest suppliers in the world for the rutilated quartz rough for cutting and polishing, including a large amount going to China. And so I asked him to come here and give a talk about rutilated quartz because he has both perspectives on the trade and the industry. And he says, well, how about Paraiba too? I said, what do you mean? Paraiba, I didn't know you dealt in that. Oh yeah, I was there. So he was there when the Paraiba famous green tourmalines came out, so we're gonna get two stories for the price of one speaker. And Brian actually lives in Brazil part-time, and he's one of the people who has boots on the ground. He knows how it is, and he knows how it works, and he's gonna share a little bit of that with us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, man. All right, hello everybody. This is Kendra and myself's first time in Dallas, so it's been fun getting to know your community, and I look forward to meeting more people. Rob, thanks for the invite, I really appreciate it. Thanks for the time slot right when everyone wants to take a nap. But that's all right, let me get this up. The Perot Museum, I hope to get back and explore that further. So with that theme, I will help lull you to sleep with a geography lesson first. All right, so Brazil. There is your eastern pegmatite province or field. Minas Gerais, southern Bahia, Espírito Santo. That's where most of the gems and crystals come from or are gathered for global dispersion. Central Brazil and Tocantins is another pegmatite province. Northeast Brazil, the famous Borborema Pegmatite Province. I threw in all the emerald locations just because people like emeralds. And where that copper fell out of the sky landed in Rio Grande do Norte and Paraiba State. If you're into diamonds, have at it. It's everywhere. So this is basically, I want to show, we will be traveling. First locality is in the state of Bahia, and then we will go up here to the state of Paraiba, 860 kilometers as a hawk flies. Now, when I first started in the business in the early 1980s, I spent time in Bahia. I was fortunate to encounter Bahia first in 1974 by meeting my lovely wife in high school. She is a Baiana, she's authentic. So, time spent in Salvador in the early 80s, I met a jeweler who had a shop downstairs, a cutting shop, and I hung out with the tourmaline cutters and such, and he said, there's a stone that's very interesting. I haven't been out there for years. Would you like to go? And I said, hell yeah. He didn't even know what to call the stone. So we headed west through Bahia, and you encounter the Chapada Diamantina. It's a high plateau. It is where the diamonds were discovered in the mid-1800s and was the greatest source of diamonds in the world before the South African occurrences. It is also one of the most exotic biomes in the world. You have the Atlantic rainforest meets the plateau Cerrado meets the Brazilian desert or Caatinga. And it's interesting, the Caatinga and the Sonoran desert have a lot of similarities. You're looking at quartzite layers and the conglomerate layers which shed the diamonds. And this is on the way to the rutilated quartz area. So just off the highway is this killer swimming hole, and it's hot. So we definitely stopped there to refresh. So when we went out there, this is a 2-day journey in those days. When we got out there, and I got deeper into this remote mountain range, And as we got to this village, I felt something, I'm not sure what. There was a golden glow to the area. I didn't know what stones we were even going to come see. But this village became a big part of my life. So made a relationship with the elder of the village, the main crystal dealer. He took us under his wing, and every time I would show up there, either alone or even with my family, my 2 daughters, we would stay in his house. 1987, this is the pyramid-shaped hill here. 1987, that gentleman sold my wife and I that piece of property. So we have a destiny here. Serra Mangabeira is the mountain range. So as you look, this is looking back to the east. There is the pyramid. As far as you can see, wilderness. Look to the north, wilderness. Same to the south and the west. So basically it's very remote and it's very clean. Now what's interesting is there's a narrow band of rocks, a volcanic sequence that is, it's an acid volcanic. It's andesites, rhyolites, and tuffs, and it's this little narrow thing about 80 kilometers north-south, and it is in this mountain range, 1.7 billion years old is the age on this volcanic range. That is where the heavy mineralization that occurred, as stated earlier, about 520 million years ago, that mineralization, there's quartz veins scattered through Brazil, but in that mountain range, it sucked up apparently some unusual minerals. One of the prizes from this locality are the sixling stars. So imagine this. This is one of the 3 minerals in one. You have the iron oxide coming into a hexagonal crystal. At the same time, the titanium oxide, rutil, is orienting at 60-degree angles on the axis. This is epitaxial crystal growth. And while that's happening, the silica is coming in and crystallizing at the same time, contemporaneous. And you get these amazing stars. And I think it's pretty unique in the world. There might be some other places, but this is the location where you see these stars from. And if you can imagine the hairs continuing off into the veins and into the pockets and vugs and getting captured in other crystals, then you begin to understand how the rutil is swimming through these crystals. It's quite astounding. Now, did anyone play Chutes and Ladders, sort of a board game when you're a kid? You know, you get it. So this kind of, artisanal mining is a lot like that. You go down this rope or ladder, and then you go over this way, and then you go down this chute, and then you go a little farther, there's another room, and then down here. And in this case, about 100 feet underground, 30 meters or so. So there's about an 800-pound smoky quartz in place. And I said to these guys, I go, how are you going to get that out of here? Oh, you know, up the chutes and ladders. And I'm going, good luck with that. Why don't you put a shaft right on top and pick the whole thing up and get it out? Oh, no, that's too expensive. It's too bad. So they did. They got it up the chutes and ladders. It broke in half. Nobody was killed, so that's good. No problem. But big crystals do exist here. From micromounts to giant crystals, and this is proof. This is the famous Bahia piece, which, if you've never seen it in person, it sits in the atrium at GIA Carlsbad, and it's definitely worth taking a look at. It's designed so that a certain time of day or month, or specifically solstice, through a slit in the building, sun will come in and light it up. It's certainly worth. So that was an engineering and artistic endeavor in a major piece. So this looks like a popular place to mine. Loads of people all here, obviously a productive area. Now this image could be in Africa, it could be in Asia. This is artisanal small-scale mining. Artisanal miners. And as was pointed out earlier, basically 80% of colored gemstones and the minerals and crystals that you love are mined by artisanal and small-scale miners. And I'm part of an initiative to help bring more value to these artisanal communities. And that is another story, another lecture. But directly impacting as many as 150 million people globally. When you approach these mine camps in these areas, you must approach with respect, goodwill, a good camera. It helps sometimes, sometimes not. This is the mid-1990s. So this is artisanal mining. A guy on a stick tied to a rope. His two buddies letting him down, and they trade off. Mid-1990s, the first energy arrived. You see the cord running down. That's diesel-generated electricity. This is 10, 15 years later, essentially the same. Artisanal mining is poor. They're working on shoestrings all the time. Difference by now is there's some basic safety equipment. When I opened the Pyramid Mine in 2003, I was the very first person to ever introduce dust protection, ear protection, basics. Now it's fairly widespread, but it's still lacking. There's 2,000 to 3,000 miners scattered across this mountain range. The labor of love, you can see it. Now, if y'all like camping out, you might try your hand at artisanal mining. So this area produces magnificent pieces. This example, I think, is about a 5-kilo crystal, completely brilliant surface, totally natural, chock full of rutile. And in any kind of lighting situation, it's just dazzling, especially in sunlight. Oh, woe to the person that has to carry this from the mountain to Tucson, or to the buyer, the end user. Some of these specimens, and these are quite spectacular, are very difficult to transport, obviously. These guys oftentimes are covered in clay when they're found. So there at where the miners, they will soak it in water and basically jiggle it around and carefully get the clay off. And then the dealers that buy these eventually will do some more prepping. Some of you may recognize this. This is a famous find. These look like sea urchins basically stuck on the rock. And this is, you see these spectacular pieces. That's how they came out of the earth. They, and it's on a volcanic tuff. You can see the original texture in the rock. Now, the miners that discovered this, they're mining quartz crystal, and they hit a fissure. The fissure opens up like this. And the miners are like, they're complaining. It's like, damn, this stuff is like scratching my back, and oh, shit. And, sorry. And so, literally, they took their metal pry bars, and they're like scraping it off the walls. I knew that was gonna hurt, right? Now, anyway, fortunately, there was a dealer locally who got wind of these, and he raced out there, and he stopped them from doing that, and they were able to extract some nice specimens. This is a water clear but smoky morillon. This was one of the first pieces that I owned, and stayed in my family for many, 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 many years. But again, you can see the brilliance that happens when light, that's just a sunbeam hitting it in the guy's Senor Vidal, the guy that I used to stay at his house, this was just found the day before. Now it's a spectacular stone for lapidary artists. I like cutting rutile. I seek out unusual patterns and shapes, and currently a lot of natural textures on the crystal surface I like to incorporate. It's even in high jewelry. This is a beautiful suite that I cut. My friend Carol in New York, 18 karat gold diamond bracelet, beautiful. Here's a popular designer in Beverly Hills, Jackie Aishi. She markets her jewelry as talisman and spiritual and beautiful. Here displayed on a Brazilian model, much to my liking. This is a great, great advertisement for. And that's a gnarly stone she's got here too. It's like packed full of rutile. Yeah, a gnarly stone with a big chunk of hematite. The flip side, I left it all natural crystal faces. Really cool. Also, because of the chemistry of the area, we have rare earth elements and some ugly minerals that some people enjoy for whatever reason. But actually, let me go back quickly. Actually, you're looking at here, this is almeidaite that was just first described by Luis Menezes. He named it. And this is a more recent find just last year of the same mineral, not corroded surface, about 3 kilometers away from the original find. I imagine it's at a deeper level, that's why it's not corroded. Fascinating. It's okay. You can like ugly minerals. And but this one I find quite beautiful. You have a copper tone rutile with the hematite and completely surrounded with what I assumed was like a patch opal because of the waxy luster and hydrothermal and all that. A little bit of research and I found out, wow, this could be rhabdophane. Rhabdo what? You know, the lanthanum phosphate, whatever. So the thing is, so we have scientists and research centers and universities that actually we can send these materials to, and they enjoy checking this out. This is Dr. Rossman in his laboratory with this ingenious contraption that he has set up for cleaning and polishing flat surfaces. And then he puts the stone in a magic box and pushes a button. And on his computer screen, all these elements begin to fall out onto the computer. And he's going, ooh, ooh. And I'm going, what? And obviously, no. So, my point is, science can do some good things. Science, I would, yeah, and he is. But, I'm all about empowering women because I got 3 daughters. We have 3 daughters. I just like to throw out, let's empower science. I think that'd be cool. Now that's a shaman stone. Thousands of years ago, if you had a mirror, before mirrors were invented, that could put you in a good position to influence your tribe. So hematite mirror specimens do come from here. They're mostly banged up because of the handling, and that was mentioned earlier. It's one of the problems of minerals is surviving the human touch. They're mostly banged up, but there are some fabulous specimens come out of there. This small cabinet size, water clear crystals, a bridge of golden rutile, impeding the crystal growth. So you have all these multiple terminations on the one crystal. Fabulous piece. Now, if you're mining, that's the payday. If you find this material. Now, the Chinese market has driven the price of this up incredibly in the last decade, and for good reason, because it is rare, the really good stuff, and in Chinese culture, the golden color has significant meaning. I mean, it's dazzling. But if you find this material, then that's a payoff right there. That's a very rare piece, chock full of big golden rutile. That's a 50-hectare claim. That's my claim. And it took me 12 years to get that legalized. And I bring this up because, there's the village, and the pyramid mine is right there. So in doing so, what I did was, I was able to help the local landowners and other people living in the region formalize their land. It took me 12 years, it took them much shorter time. And this goes back to the theme of responsibly sourcing materials. It's a huge subject in the jewelry industry. It will be in the mineral industry. I guarantee it. So the first step is to legalize. And you help the locals through that process. They don't know how to do it. They don't have the money to do it. So you help them legalize the area, which opens up to legal transport, legal sales, taxation. So that's the first step in that long process of from the source to the end consumer. We're creating a bridge. And in the jewelry and stone industry, it's a very opaque, long supply chain. That's one of the entrances into the pyramid mine, that hill behind the village. Obviously, I don't like to crawl. Not necessary. Just a little extra work. But again, you engage with the municipal, state, and federal agencies, and everything starts to work. And it's the way it's going to be in the future more and more. Just that's the way it is. So follow the vein. That's quartz vein. And it's very competent volcanic rock. Almost no alteration, which kind of blows my mind for a 1.7 billion year old rock sequence. Follow that, you create hallways. Where there's a pocket, you mine it out and it becomes a room. Sometimes we see the rutile and hematite in clay seams or thin veins, and we're hoping that they get together with some quartz, And now you can spend months. I've seen people spend years mining without any production. It's a risk. And it's sweat equity for these people that live out there. But when you find something, it's quite good. Sound? Sound? No sound. He's stoked. And and there's all...
Aê, coroa, você não queria ver Rutilo, porra?
All right, hey,
Ó,
you got to hear this. Come on. All right.
Aê, como é o nome do homem?
Aí, ó, coroa.
É o Brian.
Ó, o Rutilo aí, ó.
Essa boa, se liga aí no movimento. Coisa do papai.
Aí, coroa, você não queria ver Rutilo, porra? Ó, o Rutilo aí, caralho.
Aê.
Olá. Aí sim, porra.
So, obviously, it's important and it's emotional. And I'm thinking, like, what's the crystal thinking? Right? Okay, come on. Come on here. So this crystal's been in complete darkness for 500 million years. All of a sudden, you're in the light and someone's kissing you. Come on. That's like a major shift in your life right there. So once a week there's a women's market. Now the women are on the periphery where the men are mining, and there's tailings that have anything valuable. The women are collecting it and sorting it out. And that's an important income. It's a small amount of money, but as you know, women will apply the money very judiciously. So women is important. I have a particular fondness for old people and their stories. And I would like to record their messages. She was a gold miner before crystals were anything. As a teenager, she explain how she found gold and mined it and chipped it out and concentrated it. Her mother was the daughter of a slave, all from this region. They know the plants and what they do. The ethnobotany is very important. So I want to preserve their stories before they disappear. We don't have child labor or slave labor. That's a no-no. But this woman's having a great time. Her son literally carries her out on the back 40, sets her down, and I was so blown away. We were just walking by, and there she is, and I'm talking to her. And she's just happy as can be, poking away, and she's finding crystal and crystal fragments in the soil behind her house. Not bad. There's a lot of happiness in the region. I attribute it to clean air and simple lifestyle. Down the road, there's a guy that grows 4 acres of sugarcane and makes some of the best cachaça. Seriously, 1,500 liters a year. It's all consumed very locally. Maybe that's part of the reason. I don't know. But the point is, anywhere in the world where these stones are being found and mined, there's a culture and there's tradition. And I think that's part of the story of the stone. And that's part of the reason why we need to connect the end user with the source and the stories. This is a handmade, hardwood, animal-driven sugarcane crusher. I mean, these are cool. So what I'm saying is that the rock has more to it than just the chemistry and the beauty. It has a culture. This is on the pyramid. When we had a production, we worked all night clearing it out, and by morning, the women had come up of all ages, and they're hanging out on the tailing piles, gathering the stones, cobbing it out, and collecting it. It's theirs. It's great. So it's a happy village. The kids play outside. The teenagers gather in the evening and do what teenagers do. But they also have cell phones and they have WhatsApp. And social media is like a real epidemic in Brazil. We think it's bad here. It's huge there. But this is the place, a remote part of the world, where I have an initiative where I'm going to bring in all my thoughts and theories about how we can benefit economically, sustainability for these producing areas. So economic sustainability is going to be connected with organic farming, and that's another lecture. So here you go, one of those miracles that was mentioned earlier. That's not possible. Yet that piece was not prepped, wasn't trimmed, that's how it came out. And carefully carried by hand back to Tucson. That was an amazing piece with double terminated quartz right on the middle. So wave goodbye to the Rutil. Because before there was ever Paraiba type Mozambique, before there was cuprian, elbaite, tourmaline, before there was electric, before there was neon, tourmaline, before there was Paraiba tourmaline, there was just this. A new color in a gemstone. A hard stone in the colors we love, copper. And actually, it's my pleasure and privilege because of this esteemed audience, and with pride. Because 30 years, more than 30 years I've been involved in this mine, but I'm announcing today that this mine is reopening as we speak. And you're the first to know. So we'll get back to that. First, we'll do a little review. So this is an old photo or an old collection of mine, and I use it for education. So we know that the chromophore is copper that colors the stone plus manganese, and then you have the combination. But what's unique about this photo, these are all stones from the type locality. The Batalha mine is the type locality for cuprian elbaite. And as you can see, there's a wide range of hue and everything in between. None of these stones are heated or treated. And this is another view of that collection in natural light. You can see the saturation. You can see the depth of color and the range of hue. You can see where the manganese has influenced different colors. That one deep tanzanite-looking color. That's what you need to remember about the original discovery. To this day, no other Paraiba type tourmaline in the world has the saturation that this mine has. Okay, that's a quick review. Just to remember, we went from Bahia. We're going from Bahia. Now we're going up here to Paraiba, 860 kilometers. All right. So this shows you something interesting. Here is the first discovery of cuprian tourmaline. That's the Batalha mine. Ator started mining in 1982. The first cuprian tourmalines came out 1988. 1991, a new discovery of cuprian tourmaline. Just up the trend, about 60 kilometers. 1995, a third occurrence, which was later purchased and operated by the Paul Wild company out of Germany quite successfully. And I throw in this other one on trend. This is a spessartine garnet mine with an accessory mineral of green spinel, gannite, and actually in a gem quality. Edward Bohm, you know these stones, and if you have any photos of those, I'd love it. But notice the alignment here. So what's right here and here, all of these occurrences are within the Ecuador quartzite formation, a 300-meter thick, hard quartzite. Everything to the left and right and north and south is an ocean of schist and gneiss and pegmatite. And there is thousands of pegmatites all throughout there. This is the province of Borborema. Yet, only cuprian tourmaline is in those three. I hear some theories developing out there. Talk to me. You didn't know I was psychic. All right. Anyway, that shows a lineation. That is the Patos shear. So you have an east-west trending shear that you can see visibly. And when you mash the continents of South America and Africa back together, that same shear appears in Nigeria. The blue squiggly line running through there, that's a state boundary. To the north is Rio Grande do Norte, and to the south is Paraiba. Now, the name Paraiba tourmaline, obviously, because it came from there. But when the stones showed up in 1990, first time in the world, in Tucson, best place to show up, that was the buzz that year. People said, where's this from? Where's this from? Paraiba. That's how the name Paraiba tourmaline got attached to it. The other thing, when it showed up in Tucson, some of the stones were selling about 250 carat. That's an absurd price for tourmaline. People balked. People said, that's not real. There's something wrong here. Yet, in 6 days' time, some of those same stones that were bought at 250 were already trading at 2,500 per carat. No stone in history has done that. And this stone has only done that since then, to this day. That's the extent of the Batalha mine. It's 1 kilometer, less than half a mile across that trend there. Now, when I showed up in 1989, I took this picture. It was the first to ever be published of the mine. You can see the tailing piles up on top of the hill. That is the village of Sao Jose da Batalha. 1990, I mapped it. The guy in the center is my geology buddy, Hui. And significantly, this character is a young, I think 18-year-old Sergio Barbosa. He's Heitor's son. He's grown up and become a man taking care of this mine. This is a quick, that's also an old photo, but what you can see here is, you can see the hard quartzite layers here. We're looking down the core of a big anticline. You see how it bends like that, and it bends back down on the other side. So it's a big anticline. That's the original map I did. That shows the hill and the 4 veins that were active at the time, or the 4 dikes. This is a close-up, 38 shafts and pits at that time. And this was truly an artisanal situation. There's no electricity, there's no water, hardly food. You're creating a haulage using sticks and rope and bits of tire. So this is Heitor's operation. This is the entrance to the mine, okay? That's, you can see the knots in the rope, that's how you go down. That was about 40 meters, 150 feet. And so I'm going down, I had to take my boots off because they were slipping out of the toehold. So I'm going down, I'm looking down. And so, little flickering candlelight down the bottom. I'm going like, what am I doing, man? I got kids. I was like, dang. Notice also the sharp contact, no alteration. So here you have a hard, brittle, you learned about this earlier, but here you have a hard cap of quartzite, the rising plutonic magma with all the juices concentrated up in the top, and the pressure cracks it. And then the slush rushes up into these veins or dikes, and it cools quickly. Simmons is showing that. So you see a sharp contact. A nice shot. This is in one of the drifts. You can see the sunlight shining down. Nice, but here's the prize. Again, supersaturated natural gems. You know, the term neon and electric was apropos. These gems will glow in even low light, incandescent or candlelight. Valuable stones bring trouble. So from the beginning, Heitor had the original claim. And 1989, some people slapped a claim on top of him, and then began this trouble of trying to forcefully take over the mine. So in these days, sawed-off shotgun, the lawyers packing, security, Heitor with his fruit. They're strategizing what's going on. It was dangerous times, actually. And in the first years of my association with this, and how I even got there is a whole nother story. I don't have time for it. But the point is, in those days, I didn't even reveal to the general world what was going on or who I was. It was a little risky at that time. Again, natural, unheated stone. And you see those 2 big chunks, kind of like grayish? Heat those, and the manganese reduces, the copper stays. Heat those, electric, boom. So whoever owns that big chunk that's a gem, obviously somewhere on the planet, has truly one of the big pieces from this mine. Some of the best greens in the world, that's a crystal terminated on the end you can't see and then etched on the other end. It ended up as a faceted stone. But I would hope that someone would jump in and say, don't cut it and keep it as a collection. These days, I think that would be possible. Again, saturation, that's the story. Saturation from this mine Nothing like it in the world. I would like that for my pocket rock. That's a good one. A few specimens came from there, usually small, but from this particular mine, the material was either broken, little pieces, or highly etched, and anything cuttable was basically cut. This is a very small specimen, but it has a trigonal termination, real cute. And also, from this mine only, in these green crystals, you get copper, elemental copper, platelets, similar to the Oregon sunstone, and this schiller, and you can see it on the side there. And that's an if you have one of those, it is from this mine. There's no other place that does that. And this is very rarely in the blue stones, but this was actually captured in a blue gem by John. Dendritic elemental copper. Fine specimen, totally etched, beautiful. What I like to show about this one is in the AB axis, you can see the beautiful blue-green kind of turquoise color. Down the C axis, it is indigo. You pick that stone up and you hold it up to a light, natural light, any light, and the blue that comes through, it goes through your skull, and it must do something. It goes into the pioneering, I don't know, it's a mind-piercing color, and it does something. And that might be one of the attractions of the stone that was discovered here. It's a mind-altering color, I must say. One of my favorite. This is a small cabinet. Small cabinet? No, not really. I wish. This is a very small specimen, but quartz on Paraiba. I love that piece. Now, piles of colored gems, that's good too. And I show this because, again, from this particular mine, you have a range of hue that doesn't happen in the other mine to the north. But there's a range of hue, and Mozambique also produces a wide range of hues. But all what you're seeing here are all unheated, so all those colors occur naturally. The dark blue ones, those are the most rare, because most of them were heated, because those will turn the electric turquoise when they're heated. But those blue stones are quite rare for that reason. Objects of art. I like to carve powerful pieces. This is an Artisanal type object. If you can say Paraiba type, I can say Artisanal type. And Rob, you know what that means, right? So these colors obviously get the creative juices flowing with designers. Paula, you know very well, right? So this is a fabulous piece by Christoph. All these stones are from Batalha. It uses a range of hue. You have some greens and purples in there, set in platinum, 18-karat gold beak. The eye stone is 7 carats. This is a major piece. Fantastic. This is one of our pieces, set in platinum. That is a wheel of light. It's an invention of mine. I didn't tell you I was an alchemist, but that's another story. And I want to show you this. This is archival. This is old. There's no sound, but this gives you a feel. This is the number 4 vein, the widest vein, but it's beautiful. You go in there, and it's all the feldspars turn to kaolin. It's kaolinized. You can work it by hand. There's lepidolite and quartz and such, but you're in there, and it's all white, and there's air flowing through the shafts and all the drifts. And it's hot outside, and it's cool down there. It's beautiful. And in all those years of mining by hand, there was never any accident. Nothing serious ever happened. His foot's okay. Don't worry. That's nothing. You know, one of the miners in flip-flops. That's cool. But it's actually, every time I visited there, and that was yearly, 2 times, 3 times a year, is part of my life. It was always a pleasure to be in there, although the ceiling 20 meters up, knowing that it's that clay, that was a little sketch. So here, going back in time, 1990, you can see my partner standing down there maybe? Okay? So he's standing on that tailing pile. Immense tailing piles, remember, all dug by hand with candlelight. The value of those stones was so incredible that by 2000, that hill had been scraped down to the bedrock. Every fragment, anything was valuable. Now also, by that time, the neighbor got an investor, and we're looking at this area over here, and started working the alluvium and colluvium. The investor was David Sherman, a good-hearted man. His partner was the neighbor, the landowner, who happened to be a state congressman. And David's mine operator, I'll just call him the pirate. They were a very colorful crew. Anyway, they were successful and produced some new material came out in those times that were collected colluvial and alluvial. Then, just years of falling apart. There's the main dike that the main gemstones were found in, the Eitorita dike, collapsed in on itself. You can see a structure down here. So that was the neighboring claim to the south on the edge of Eitor. They began digging a shaft and going down right there on the edge of his property. And they found the continuation of those veins on the hill. 2008, new chapter. So he's going down and he starts coming into Eitor's property and starting to find some tourmaline. So Sergio has to immediately dig a shaft right next, right there, and block him from entering his property. The signs were good. Cuprian tourmaline, quartz, lepidolite. Indeed, there you go. There's another one of those. This is a very nice crystal, and again, that blue color down the C-axis. Astounding. If anyone knows where this crystal is, let me know. I'd like to know where it ended up. Sure, so as soon as something good's found, tension, guns, people, neighbors bickering, typical. So by that time, the governor of the state sent these guys out to cool things down successfully. That's Eitor, by the way. So that's like 10, 11 years ago. Oh. Eitor. So in that photo, he's like 76 years old. Next chapter, 2014, I lead a team from GIA to document Paraiba tourmaline with a focus on the original Batalha mine. So here we are into the neighbors that had dug down, and they're down deeper than ever before. It's not Eitor's property, this is the Pava Azul neighbors, so we have access. You can see at this depth, 70, 80 meters deeper than ever gone before on the hill. Water's coming in significantly. Feldspar is showing up. Remember, everything above there has been kaolinized. It's just, there's no feldspar. Now we're hitting feldspar. That bodes well for mining at depth. Which brings us to the new chapter. So there's investment. And after all these years, 24 years of trials, tribulation, fighting, bickering, politicians, lawyers, tons of money squandered uselessly, it's been determined that Eitor, the original mother claim, is the only valid claim. He's allowed to mine. Took that many years. So here we go. There's the dike. We're cleaning it out, shoring it up. This is what it looks like down there. You can see the infill is the brown, but there's some original dike to the right. So as we're going down, cleaning it out, we're processing it, new system. We're pulling out tantalum and niobium in the separation table there, a little bit of revenue stream to help the mine. Recycling water, extremely important. Here's the good news. So at the base of the hill, 40 meters deeper than ever before penetrated, we're doing a cross-cut shaft. We're going to cross-cut all those veins at 40 meters deeper than before. As we go into each vein, we're going to step out, and we're going to, on the first one, we're going to create a big room. Sergio calls it a salon. I imagine espresso machines, gelato, I don't know. But we're going to put in an elevator shaft. And because the veins are all dipping like this, that shaft will go down and cross the different dikes at different levels. We don't know. Nobody's ever drilled it. But the dikes are near vertical. Now this photo is about 3 weeks ago from the house, the infrastructure, the cafeteria, the new kitchen. And that rainbow is ending right on the sweet spot. And I'll take that as a good omen. I'll take that as a good omen. I got 2 more slides, so I'll go quick, because someone's anxious over here. So the thing is, okay, so this is the prize. That piece of rough cut this gemstone, and this is the definition of value. Rarity plus beauty creates value. And here we have it. And I end with that. Thanks for your patience.